Friday started like any other, but that's the trick with betrayal. It never rings the doorbell. It just slips in like a draft and chills the room before you even notice the window's been cracked. I was at the garage finishing up on a '72 Mustang rebuild. Hands smelled like steel and old oil. I remember the satisfaction of it. The kind that seeps deep into your bones when you bring something back to life with your bare hands. I didn't know I'd be burying something else by nightfall. At 4:17 p.m., I got the message. Just one line. I won't be coming home tonight. Staying at Carla's. Don't wait up. That was it. I read it twice, not because I didn't understand the words, but because they hit wrong. Too polished. Too flat. I stood there, the wrench still in my hand, not feeling my fingertips anymore. Carla, her coworker, technically. I'd met her maybe 3 times. Polite, empty conversations. Carla had the personality of a lukewarm cup of tea. Brittany never even liked her. So why now? I didn't text back. I didn't call. I didn't drive home. I didn't do anything normal. Instead, I started driving, but not towards home. I turned off my location, switched off Bluetooth. And as I did, a memory slid in sideways. 3 weeks ago, Brittany had forgotten her phone at home when I came back from work early. I remember how she looked at me when I handed it to her. Too surprised. Too defensive. That kind of startled that doesn't belong in a good marriage. Her phone locked itself the second it hit her hand. But that wasn't the only thing. There was the time she laughed too hard at a text during dinner and shoved her phone under her thigh like it might float away. Or the time she insisted on sleeping in the guest room because my snoring was giving her migraines. But she took her charger and her robe with her. I filed it all in a corner of my head and pretended I was being dramatic. Not tonight. I parked my truck outside of the Marriott on Route 19. Why there? Because 2 weeks ago I saw a charge on our joint credit card. $238. Marriott. She said it was for her boss's retirement dinner. The company hadn't reimbursed her yet. Liar. I waited. Not inside. Not in the lobby. I waited across the street in the parking lot of a shuttered Dunkin' Donuts with a coffee I didn't drink and the kind of silence that burns through your eardrums. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew I'd recognize it. At 9:52 p.m., I saw her. Black jeans. That red coat she only wears when she wants attention. Walking out of the side door with a man. Not Carla. Not even close. He was taller than me. Blonde. His hand casually pressed to the small of her back like it belonged there. She didn't flinch. She leaned into it. They were laughing. And here's the part that buried the knife deep. She was laughing the same way she used to with me. Before everything became an errand. Before I became something she scheduled between conference calls. I didn't get out. I didn't make a scene. I took a photo. No flash. No sound. And then I did something I didn't expect. I smiled. Not because I was okay. Not because it didn't hurt. But because suddenly I had clarity. This wasn't confusion. It wasn't a maybe. This was solid. This was her crossing a line and never looking back. So I didn't go home. I went to her sister's place. That was step 1. Because if Brittany wasn't coming home tonight, then fine. I would set the table. I would light the candles. I would prepare every piece, every word, every detail for the moment her world cracked like glass under a slow-moving tire. And she would never see it coming. Her sister opened the door half asleep, wearing a fleece robe and confusion. I told her I needed to talk, that it was urgent. And no, Brittany wasn't with me. She led me in without questions. Maybe because of how I looked. Maybe I'd lost the ability to hide the storm behind my face. We sat at the kitchen table. I showed her the photo. Brittany and the man. Still nameless, still faceless beyond that sickening hand on her back. Her sister didn't speak. Just stared. Blinked once. Twice. Then whispered. She told me you were working nights again. That you two were just off. Off. A word that pretends to be neutral but feels like an accusation. She said you were distant. Her sister added, voice cracking. Said you'd probably cheat on her first. That hit like a lead pipe. Not because I was shocked, but because it made perfect, awful sense. Brittany was rewriting the narrative before it ever came out. Planting seeds. Building her alibi with a smile and a wine glass and half-truths in family group chats. She'd been poisoning the well for months. But that was fine. Let her keep digging. I wasn't there to win hearts. I was there to win the war. I didn't stay long. Just long enough to ask one question. Have you seen her with anyone lately? She hesitated. That hesitation said everything before she even opened her mouth. Once, she finally said. Last month. At the bar near her office. I stopped in for a drink. She didn't see me. He was there. Same guy. So this wasn't new. This wasn't fresh. This wasn't some one-night mistake. This was rehearsed. Safe. Practiced. They had a routine. I thanked her and left. She tried to say something else, but I was already gone. In the truck, engine cold. I sat in the dark with my phone in hand and opened her location. She'd shared it with me 6 months ago when she lost her keys at the gym and needed help finding them. I hadn't checked it since. It said she was in the city. Not Carla's neighborhood. Not anywhere near it. She'd forgotten I still had it. I watched the dot flicker in place for 15 minutes, then start moving slowly toward our house. She was coming home after all. No message. No warning. Just like she could slip back in unnoticed, wipe off someone else's cologne and pull our blanket up over the lie. But she wasn't coming back to the home she left. Not anymore. I made it there in 12 minutes flat, parked in the garage, lights off. Every window in the house stayed dark. I waited in the corner of the living room where the shadows are thickest. Behind the armchair she made me move 3 times, because it didn't look right. At 11:26 p.m., the front door clicked. She came in on her phone, whispering, giggling, not even pretending anymore. No, he has no idea. I told him Carla, he buys that crap every time. He still thinks I'm at some dumb girl's night. You could rob the place and he'd probably apologize for not offering you snacks. I stepped out of the shadow just as she turned around. Her whole body jolted. The phone slipped from her hand and hit the tile like a dead bird. Her eyes went wide, then narrow, then cold in the span of 3 seconds. Jake? She said. Just that. Nothing else. I didn't speak. I held up the photo on my phone, the one I took from across the street. Her face didn't crack. It hardened. You following me now? I expected fear. Panic. What I got was indifference, soaked in contempt. You really need help? She added, brushing past me like I was a waiter at a bad restaurant. I don't have time for another one of your paranoid. Who is he? I cut in. My voice didn't shake. She turned at the base of the stairs. Didn't even blink. Nobody. She lied like she was ordering coffee. Routine. Emotionless. Then came the final twist of the night. The one that made my ribs feel like they were caving in. I'm glad you found out, she said. Saves me the trouble. I was going to tell you next week anyway. This isn't working. It hasn't been working for a long time. My voice was barely above a whisper. So this is it? She smiled. Not warm. Not sad. Not regretful. Just smug. This has been over for months. You just didn't notice. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the back porch and watched the frost eat across the lawn. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. Because now it was time to start. If she thought this was over, she hadn't seen what payback really looked like. By morning. She was gone again. Not a word. Not a note. No, let's talk. Or we need to figure this out. Just an empty side of the bed and a half-drunk glass of water by the sink. Like she had disappeared into fog. Like I didn't exist. But I didn't need her to speak. She had already said everything that mattered. This has been over for months. That sentence sat in my chest like a ticking thing. But I didn't let it break me. Not now. Not when I finally had leverage. At 7:12 a.m., I opened the safe. Inside was a folder I hadn't touched in 5 years. Insurance papers, joint bank accounts, the deed to the house. Everything with both our names in black ink. And as I flipped through it, I realized something she hadn't considered. The house was mine. I paid for it with my inheritance from my father. Her name wasn't on the deed. She'd never wanted it. Said she didn't care about paperwork and technicalities. She wanted freedom, she said. Now she had it. And I had the paperwork. I packed her things. All of them. Every pair of overpriced shoes. Every highlighter-stained planner. Every overpriced moisturizer and hair straightener she ordered for self-care. All of it. In boxes. Neat. Labeled. I didn't trash anything. That would have given her something to cry about to her friends. No, I made it clean. Surgical. Professional. The way she used to organize her charity events for people she didn't actually care about. Then I changed the locks. By 11:45 a.m., it was done. Her key wouldn't work. Her garage remote disconnected. Her closet empty. I sent her a message. Just a single photo of the boxes lined up in the garage, and a line of text. You want it out. Here it is. She didn't reply. But that night, I got a knock at the door. I opened it to find her. Arms crossed. Face twisted. Not in confusion or sadness, but disgust. Like I had broken the rules of some secret game she thought she controlled. You're seriously doing this? She asked. I didn't answer. I stepped aside. She didn't come in. She looked past me into the hallway like she expected someone else to appear. Maybe the man she used to lie to, the one who'd beg for closure. He wasn't here anymore. I didn't say I was moving out, she said slowly, her voice flat. You didn't have to. I finished the conversation for you. She laughed, dry, mocking. You're actually kicking me out? After everything. After everything, I said. She stepped back like I'd spit at her. You know this is pathetic, right? You think this makes you powerful? You look desperate. I leaned on the doorframe, calm, not smiling. I look like a man with receipts. That made her blink. She'd underestimated me. She'd always believed she was the smart one, the planner, the one who moved pieces while I turned wrenches and paid bills. But she forgot that the quiet ones are always watching. She turned to leave, but not before she tried one more jab. You think this means you win? You're just bitter and lonely. And you'll stay that way. I shut the door. Didn't slam it. Didn't yell. I just shut it like closing a chapter of a book I'd been rereading too long. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Because the next part of my plan required silence, patience, and a little help from someone who hated liars even more than I did. It started with a call to Marcus. Now, Marcus isn't just an old friend. He's the kind of guy people forget at parties until they realize he's the one holding the stories. We've known each other since college, but life split us down different paths. Me into honest work, him into tech security and things that live in digital shadows. When I told him what happened, he didn't gasp, didn't pity me. He just said, "You want truth or revenge?" "Both," I answered. He paused. "All right then, I'll send you a link. Don't open it at work." It wasn't illegal, but it lived in a very gray corner of the internet, where loyalty trumps terms and conditions. What Marcus gave me was access to a mirror of Brittany's life, her emails, her private social media backups, her location metadata, and a duplicate of her cloud drive, stuff she thought she'd deleted. I spent the next 2 nights clicking through the last 8 months of our life, as seen through her eyes. And it was worse than I thought. There wasn't just one guy. There were three, each with their own little corner of her attention. One from her office, young, dumb, too naive to realize he was being used. One from a gym she never even had a membership to. And the last, him, the tall one, the one I caught on camera, the one she texted the words, "You're the only one who makes me feel alive." Alive. While I was budgeting, fixing pipes, keeping the fridge full, she was collecting little adrenaline hits from strangers and telling herself it was living. But it got better. Because in her emails I found something even more useful, receipts. Literal receipts. She used our shared card to buy hotel rooms and expensive dinners, then requested fake reimbursements from work. She was embezzling. Now, let me be clear. I wasn't going to blackmail her. I wasn't going to threaten her with jail. That wasn't the point. But her company had very strict ethics clauses. And guess who worked in compliance? Exactly. So I printed the receipts. Every one of them. With dates. With her name on the bookings. With her own emails requesting company comp for personal expenses. I didn't send them. Not yet. But they were ready. I needed to wait for the right moment. The moment when she thought she'd won. And that moment came 3 days later, on a Sunday, when she messaged me asking to meet and talk like adults. I agreed. I picked a neutral place, a small cafe near the river. Public, calm, quiet. I got there early. She arrived exactly 4 minutes late, dressed like she wanted to look important but unbothered. Neutral makeup, designer bag, the look of someone trying to negotiate the fallout on her terms. We sat. No hug, no small talk. She started with a sigh. "Look, I've been thinking. I think we should sell the house, split the assets, and just move on. Clean break. I waited. Let the silence spread until she squirmed. I mean, she continued, you don't want this to get messy. I placed the envelope on the table between us. Thick, heavy, unlabeled. What's that? She asked. Everything, I said. Every room you lied in. Every dollar you stole. Every man you paraded behind my back. Her smile faltered. You're being dramatic. Open it. She didn't. I leaned in, quiet, controlled. I'm not taking you to court. I'm not calling your office. I'm not burning down your life. Not unless you push me. Her fingers twitched. You're going to leave clean. No alimony. No claims. No dragging this out. You're going to walk away and start over somewhere far away with one of your lovers, and you're going to do it quietly. She stared at the envelope like it might explode. And then, slowly, she nodded. One of those tiny, twitchy nods that people do when they realize they're trapped and pretending they aren't. But I wasn't done. Also, I said, you're going to tell your family the truth. She blinked. What? You're going to tell them everything. No more lies. No more painting me as the cold husband. You want freedom? Earn it. Her mouth opened, closed. She stood, took the envelope, didn't say another word. And as she walked out of that cafe, I saw it, the smallest crack in her armor. For the first time in a year, she looked afraid. But me, I'd never felt more alive. 2 days passed. No calls, no messages, no lawyer letters. I half expected her to lash out, to twist my silence into guilt. Instead, nothing, which was somehow worse. It meant she was thinking, calculating, probably digging through her own tracks, wondering how deep the knife had gone, trying to find a corner of control she could still stand on. But I didn't sit still. I went back to the one place she'd forgotten I had any power left. Her own family. Her mother and I never got along. Polite but cold. The kind of woman who looked at me like I was a placeholder. Someone stable enough for her daughter to settle down with, but boring enough to eventually be replaced. Still, her father liked me. Old school type. Respected loyalty. Hated liars. I showed up at their house with a copy of the envelope. I didn't call first. They let me in. I told them everything. Not with bitterness. Not with drama. Just the truth. Calm, straight. The timelines, the receipts, the 3 different men. The hotel bills. The lies to their faces. Her mother looked at me like I was peeling off her skin. Her father, though, he listened. Every word. Nodding slowly, never interrupting. When I finished, he stood up, walked to the liquor cabinet, poured 2 glasses of scotch and handed me one. She always did like playing games, he muttered. Her mother tried to defend her, softly, with that tone people use when the truth is choking them but they still want to save face. Maybe he manipulated her. The other man. She had 3, I corrected. Which one are you blaming? No reply. I left them with the documents. I didn't ask them to pick sides. But I knew I didn't have to. People like Brittany rely on illusion. Once you take it away, their whole persona folds. And I had one more stop to make. His place. The blonde one. I didn't want revenge. Not on him. He wasn't my problem. But I needed something. Clarity. Confirmation. Maybe just the satisfaction of seeing the stupidity in his eyes. I found him easily. Marcus helped. 3rd floor apartment in a condo building she once told me was ugly and depressing. I knocked. He opened the door with the clueless smile of a man who thinks he's special. The kind of guy who believes every beautiful woman is misunderstood and every relationship she walks away from was somehow toxic. Can I help you? He asked. You're seeing Brittany, I said. His face fell. Just slightly. Enough. I was, he said carefully. It's complicated. It's not. You're one of 3. Or were anyway. His mouth opened. No sound came out. She's good at this, I continued. Good at making each guy feel like the only one. Trust me, I've seen the playbook. He didn't slam the door. He didn't deny it. He just stood there, absorbing the weight of something he hadn't planned for. Truth. Then he said something I didn't expect. She told me you hit her. That stopped me. She said she had bruises. That you. She lied. I cut him off. And if you believe that, you deserve every second you spend waiting for her to come back. He didn't answer. But I could see it already, the gears turning. Doubt forming. The illusion fracturing. I left him with his silence. By that night, the messages started. First, her sister. She's saying you're threatening her. Then, a mutual friend. She posted a story that was clearly about you. When manipulators cry victim, stay strong. Then, finally, Brittany herself. A long, paragraph-heavy text that started with, I can't believe you would turn everyone against me. This is abuse. That word. Abuse. She was throwing paint on a fire, hoping the smoke would make her look like the one burning. I didn't reply. Not yet. Because the next part of the plan wasn't about her. It was about me. I didn't answer her message. Not because I didn't have a response. I had 100. I could have exposed every one of her lies in one long, brutal paragraph. But that's what she wanted. Another game, another round, another performance with an audience. She was baiting me, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't bite. Instead, I stayed quiet. Let her scream into the void while I focused on the one thing she never thought I'd reclaim. Control. I met with a lawyer. A real one. Not the friend of a friend who helped draft our wills, but someone with sharp eyes and a reputation for tearing clean exits out of tangled messes. I told him everything, no exaggeration, no theatrics. Just the facts. He listened, asked for the receipts, and then said a sentence that changed everything. She's got no legal standing here. If we move fast, this will be over before she figures out how badly she misplayed her hand. So we moved. He filed for divorce on my behalf that day, citing emotional abandonment and financial misconduct. She would be served by week's end. That night, I made one final move. Not revenge. Not exposure. Just the truth. I wrote a letter. Not to her. To the people still stuck in her web. Friends who believed her curated sob stories. Colleagues who pitied the lonely wife. Even her family, still reeling from the slow drip of reality. I kept it short, honest, and surgical. I'm not interested in character assassination. But I won't be a ghost in my own story either. Brittany made her choices. I'm making mine. If you choose to stand in the middle, I wish you peace. If you choose to stand behind lies, you're free to go with them. I didn't send it to everyone. Just the ones who mattered. 2 days later, the text came. This time, short. You served me? Seriously? What the hell is wrong with you? Still no apology. No shame. Just the same wounded arrogance. The disbelief that someone she'd written off had dared to reclaim the pen. I didn't reply, but the silence was different now. It wasn't the silence of confusion or pain. It was the silence of a man who didn't need her to understand anymore. And that was when it happened. The collapse. It started with a message from Marcus. Check this out. He sent me a link, a screenshot from her private Instagram, the one with the curated audience. Just a blurry black and white photo of her face. Makeup smeared, with a caption. Sometimes people show you who they really are. Sometimes they take everything you are and make it feel worthless. But I will rise. Watch me. The comments were full of affirmations. You're so strong. Keep going, queen. But a few stood out. Didn't you have like 3 boyfriends at once? I used to admire you. Then I saw the receipts. Everyone's seen the truth by now. Stop pretending you're the victim. And just like that, the thread she'd been weaving started to fray in public. But I didn't share anything. I didn't leak. I didn't reply. I didn't gloat. Because I'd already won. The moment she looked at her life and saw how hollow it had become, that was the victory. The next time she messaged me, it was an email. Not angry, just tired. I've signed the papers. I'll be out by the end of the week. I left the spare key under the planter. I hope you find what you're looking for. I read it once, then deleted it. And for the first time in almost a year, I slept through the night. The key was where she said it would be. Under the planter by the front door, just like old times. Except now, the gesture felt less like a convenience and more like a white flag. She was gone when I got home. Gone without drama, without screaming. Her things vanished like a ghost that finally got tired of haunting the place. I stood in the doorway for a long time, just listening. The quiet was almost violent. No perfume in the air. No click of her heels. No sarcastic, clipped voice asking why I left the bathroom light on again. Just silence. Real silence. The kind that fills the lungs, not strangles them. I walked through the house slowly, as if someone had died. In a way, someone had. The living room was bare where her vanity mirror used to be. She'd moved it in 2 years ago, claiming she needed her own space for reflection. I remember building it for her, sweating in the garage because she didn't want to wait for delivery. She posted it on Instagram the next day. Finally, a little place just for me. I wasn't even in the photo. I checked the drawers. Empty, except for a necklace I'd bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. The one she said she adored, still in the box, untouched. That was when I noticed the envelope on the kitchen counter. No name, no markings, just thick, slightly wrinkled. I opened it with the edge of my thumbnail. Inside were photographs, prints, of her and him. Not the hotel ones, not the caught-in-the-act type. No, these were from a party I wasn't invited to. A dinner I was supposedly too tired to enjoy. She wore a dress I'd never seen before, her hand on his chest, laughing at something I'd never know. He looked younger in the photo, less cautious, probably thinking he was winning. Tucked behind them was a handwritten note. Just one page, folded unevenly. Her handwriting, sharp, slanted. I'm not writing this to explain myself. I don't owe that. And you're not writing this in your head because you care anymore. I know that. But I want to say one thing you might not believe. I never planned any of this. It wasn't a scheme. It wasn't some long con. It was small moments, one crack at a time. And by the time I realized how far it had gone, I couldn't remember how we ever started. You were never the villain. Just the mirror I didn't want to look at anymore. I read it twice. There was no apology, no guilt, just reflection. Maybe her first honest one. I didn't know what to feel. Anger? Not really. The rage had passed. Sadness? Maybe. But it wasn't sharp anymore. It was dull. Like an old bruise you forget about until you press it again. I kept the photos. Not out of spite, but because history has teeth. And sometimes you need to remember what it looked like when someone finally showed you their real face. That night, I cooked for myself for the first time in weeks. Not a frozen dinner. Not takeout. Real food. I cracked open a bottle of wine someone had given us at our wedding and poured one glass. To closure. To truth. To the woman I thought I married. And to the one who walked away from herself long before she ever left me. When I finished, I took the rest of the wine and poured it down the sink. And then, just to feel it, really feel it, I walked upstairs and laid across the bed sideways. In the middle, where neither of us used to sleep. 3 weeks passed. She didn't come back. Not for the last box of scarves she'd left in the closet. Not for the books still in the guest room. Not even for the set of earrings she once accused me of not appreciating enough. When I forgot they were a birthday gift. She was really gone. People think healing is loud. That it comes in breakthroughs or some tearful cinematic release. But that's not what it was for me. It came in the tiniest things. Reaching for my toothbrush and realizing hers wasn't there. Driving past the place we used to buy groceries and not flinching. Waking up and not checking my phone out of habit to see if she'd come home. Every day, the air in the house got clearer. Not lighter, just cleaner. Like opening a window after a long winter. One afternoon, I got a call from Carla. Yes, that Carla. The one she was supposedly staying with the night it all snapped. The lie that kicked this whole avalanche loose. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Jake, she said. I wasn't going to call, but I think you should know. Brittany's been saying things. I waited. She's telling people you were manipulative, controlling, that you isolated her. Of course she was. She needed a narrative. If she couldn't be innocent, she'd at least be misunderstood, victimized, anything but accountable. She even said you tried to destroy her reputation out of jealousy. Carla added quietly. That was the one that made me laugh. Quietly, not bitterly, just like someone who finally sees the entire puzzle and realizes how ugly the picture really is. I figured you'd want to know, Carla said. I told her I was done. I don't want to be part of whatever version of reality she's building. Thank you, I said. Jake. She really did mess things up, didn't she? Worse, I replied. She made sure the wreckage looked like art. After I hung up, I sat in the living room for a long time with the blinds open and the light hitting the floor the way it never could when she was home. She hated sunlight, said it made the house too warm. We used to live in shadows. Not anymore. That night, I took every gift I'd ever given her. Every receipt, every card, every trace of the life I once begged to hold together, and boxed them. Not to destroy them, not to burn, to bury. I drove out to the storage unit I'd used during our first move-in, the one she said was too far out and made me cancel. The gate still worked. The key still fit. Inside was nothing but dust and silence. I slid the box to the back of the unit and locked it. Not for closure. Not for revenge. But because someday, when I'm older and someone asks me if I ever loved a woman who didn't love me back, I'll know where the proof lives. And I'll know I survived it. The next day, I received a letter in the mail. From her. No return address. Just a folded page with 5 words. Do you hate me yet? I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have an answer, but because the only thing worse than being hated is being irrelevant. It came on a Tuesday. A knock at the door around 8:30 p.m. I almost didn't get up. I was reading, music low, soup simmering on the stove. Small, quiet comforts I'd started to rebuild into my evenings. No alarms, no masks, just breathing finally. But something about that knock felt too familiar. I opened the door and there she was. Not polished, not styled, just standing there in a hoodie too big for her frame, hands buried deep in the sleeves like she didn't know what to do with them. No makeup, hair tied back, no curated version, no performative entrance. Just Brittany, or whatever was left of her after everything. She didn't say anything at first. She just looked at me like someone looking at a place they used to live in and forgot they loved. I'm not here to fight, she said. I didn't invite her in. I just wanted to see you. One last time. Why? I asked. She looked down at her shoes, trainers, not heels. The kind she used to call lazy. Everything about her looked like someone who'd finally run out of versions to wear. Because I ruined it, she whispered. And I didn't know how much until I couldn't fix it. I said nothing. I'd waited months for words like that. And now that they were here, they felt light. Fragile. Too little, far too late. She stepped back, as if my silence struck harder than yelling ever could. You were always there. I thought I wanted more. I thought I could chase some version of myself that didn't need you. But all I did was hollow everything out. I watched her closely, looking for the angle, the bait, the twist. But for once, there wasn't one. Just tired honesty. The kind that only comes when a person's pride finally gives up the fight. I'm not asking for another chance, she added. I wouldn't even know what to do with it. I just didn't want to disappear like a coward. And then, for the first time in all of this, she cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet tears she didn't bother wiping away. The kind that come when there's nothing left to defend. I lost everything that made me real, she said. You were part of that. I still didn't speak. But I didn't close the door either. She waited a few seconds more, then nodded once, as if she already knew this was the end but needed to hear it confirmed in silence. She turned and walked down the steps without asking for anything. No hug, no forgiveness, not even a goodbye, just gone. And for the first time, I didn't feel anything heavy. Not grief, not rage, just clarity. Because love doesn't always end in fire. Sometimes it just fades, evaporates, until the ghost of it stands on your porch and admits it never knew how to stay. I didn't tell anyone she came. I didn't write about it. I didn't save her final words in a journal. I simply locked the door behind her and went back to my book. The soup didn't even boil over. A month later, the divorce was finalized. No courtroom drama. No public spectacle. Just a document with our names printed on it like 2 items in a transaction. She didn't contest anything. Not the house, not the finances, not even the evidence. Maybe because she knew there was nothing left to win. Maybe because even she was too tired to keep wearing the crown she forged out of lies. The judge nodded. Stamped. That was it. Just like that, a marriage ended. No applause. No fireworks. Just paperwork and silence. And silence, for once, was exactly what I needed. I walked out of the courthouse into a gray afternoon. Cold, a little wet, but calm. The kind of day that doesn't demand anything from you. The kind that feels like it's waiting for you to make the next move. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I drove. No destination. Just miles. Just motion. Past the diner where we used to eat after grocery runs. Past the bookstore I once begged her to visit because she never had time for stories. Past the park bench where I once waited for her, an hour late, while she texted another man about how boring life had become. I kept going until the town was just a name on a green road sign behind me. Somewhere on a back road lined with trees stripped bare for winter, I pulled over, got out, stood still for a long time, just breathing, and then I did something strange. I spoke, not to her, to me. I said, "You're still here." It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a declaration. It was just a fact, a reminder, because after everything, every lie, every insult disguised as a joke, every time she made me feel small in rooms I built for her, I was still here, not broken, not bitter, just here. And for the first time, that was enough. I went home that night and deleted the folder. The receipts, the photos, the notes, everything I'd saved in case she struck back. I didn't need it anymore. I wasn't defending myself against ghosts. The past doesn't get to sleep in your bed if you stop leaving the door unlocked. I repainted the living room the following weekend. Not to cover memories, but to claim the walls. Picked a color she hated. Bought new curtains. Replaced the couch with one that didn't sink in her favorite corner. I filled the silence with music. I read more. Cooked better. Laughed at stupid shows I used to pretend weren't funny. And once, just once, I caught myself smiling in the mirror for no reason. There's no triumph here. No movie ending. No perfect bow. Just a man who watched a lie collapse and didn't go down with it. And if there's anything I'd tell someone else standing where I stood, holding the truth like a live wire, wondering if they'll ever feel normal again, it's this: don't chase closure. Become it. Walk out of the fire. Don't look back to see if they follow. Because if they loved the real you, they wouldn't have lit the match in the first place. And if they didn't, they were never worth the burn. The story ends here. But mine doesn't. Not anymore.